All signs point to President Biden's pick for the U.S. Supreme Court. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson being confirmed to the highest court. Today, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin said he will support the nomination, likely clinching Judge Jackson's confirmation. Joining me right now is Chuck Todd, the moderator of NBC's Meet the Press. And now it appears that she will be confirmed to the high court. What's your takeaway from this week of the hearings? Because, you know, watching this, it would seem the senators asking the questions are now scrutinized as much as the nominee herself.
Well, I mean, it is, you know, it's interesting. We did an analysis of words used just among the questioners, and we compared it to how the Senate Judiciary Committee handled Elena Kagan's nomination. We thought that that was an apples to apples Obama nominee, his first, a woman nominee, versus a white woman nominee versus Biden and a black woman nominee. And the tone and tenor couldn't have been more different. And here was the other thing that's so striking. The word pornography, just by the questioners, was used nearly 100 times during this confirmation process. Combined, the words abortion and Roe were used nearly half that, okay? So I think it just shows you sort of that there was this sort of disconnect from perhaps what normally senators are curious about, of things that are actually could come before the court or sort of judicial philosophy, and went down this bizarre road that seemed more about either trying to put an issue that's already kind of been in the midterm mix, crime and defund the police, things like that, or catering to sort of this farther right wing of the conservative movement, who has this obsession and sort of this idea that there's a whole bunch of child predators out there, and they're all political elites. So it seemed to be almost poking at that whole QAnon thing. So look, it was weird. It's one of those moments where you're wondering, boy, if we shut off the TV cameras, would this have been a different hearing? And I think the answer to that is a resounding yes.
Yeah, absolutely. President Biden in Europe this week, including meetings, of course, with NATO. He's offering more help to Ukraine, not as much as Ukraine had hoped for in terms of military assistance. But the president says he wants the NATO countries to remain unified. Is he succeeding on that front, do you think, short term and long term?
Mm-hmm. Look, short term, definitely. And I think part of this trip is about seeing if he can shore up the long term, right? So what was announced on this trip, hey, the United States is going to try to backfill natural gas, liquefied natural gas. By the way, that's easier said than done. Okay, this is not an easy process, and it's going to be expensive, and it certainly for those it certainly may set us back a little bit on some climate targets when you think about that. But when you think about the two threats we're facing, existential from climate, near term with there, you know, you sort of have to weigh that. And then I think the other concern that the president has is that the Europeans don't crack under the pressure of dealing with this massive humanitarian crisis. We've seen not that long ago, Europe, have some issues where, sort of overwhelmed by migrants coming into the continent. And so I think trying to reassure these allies that we're not going anywhere financially, we're not going anywhere operationally, I think was necessary. But look, everything is trust but verified. I think the other thing that was part of this mission was to send a strong statement to China that, hey, we're pretty unified here on Russia, so much so that if you help them, don't be surprised if we target you financially as well. So, look, I think this has been a successful trip, but again, short term is the answer I'm comfortable answering right now.
Yeah.
I think every month this war goes on, the strain on Europe is something we have to constantly monitor.
Former President Trump in Northeast Georgia tomorrow. He is on the campaign trail for Herschel Walker and David Perdue. Is he really doing all he can do to help Perdue and Walker here, or is it seemingly by proxy? Has the temperature changed, do you think, as we've kind of, progressed into this year?
I think so. But there's a reason I hesitated, because every time we've thought his grip is kind of loosening, his influence is kind of waning, there's something happens, the news cycle changes. This is not a good news cycle to be Trumpy right now, right? His sort of authoritarian flirtations, right? The Putin is a strong guy thing. So it's not a good time to be in the Trump camp. And I think that's part of this thing that's out there. And you could it feels like air's coming out of the balloon, right? It's not a quick fall, but it does feel like air's coming out of the balloon. to answer your question about is he doing everything he can, I think it really depends on where you sit. Look, Donald Trump certainly cares about defeating Brian Kemp. I'm shocked at how often he's done TV ads for David Perdue, to the point of sometimes I'm wondering who's the one running for governor. Is it Donald Trump or is it David Perdue? So he's putting his money where his mouth is on Perdue, which he doesn't actually do for a lot of people. Look what he did to Mo Brooks, right? But I don't, when you ask, is he doing everything he can to help Perdue? What he's done doesn't help Perdue. You know, they have not found, you and I have talked about this before, what is the fireable offense for Kemp on the state level that Purdue's come up with? And I think he's not found it. And I do think, you and I both said this, we've been in politics, we've seen it too often. Voters care about their choice for governor on some policy issues more so than any other type of statewide race.
Yeah.
You know, they care about the color of Jersey quite a bit on U.S. Senate races. Governor, they want a little bit of substance here. And I don't know if Purdue's provided any, and I think that's why he's hurting in the polls.
Meet the Press airs Sunday morning at 10 on 11 Alive. Chuck, thanks.